Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're navigating the thrilling yet often pretty turbulent waters of mergers and acquisitions, M&A, right?
Absolutely. It sounds great on paper, growth, synergy, all that.
Yeah, exactly. But beneath that shiny surface, well, that's where different digital worlds collide. And that collision, it brings a whole wave of tricky security risks.
Mm-hmm. Massive risks.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack those specific security challenges you see in M&A. We're going to zero in on privileged access management, PM, and, well, the whole identity security picture.
Yeah, and we've got some excellent source material to guide us. It really maps out the biggest hurdles organizations face. And crucially, it points towards how a unified cloud-native platform can be that solid foundation you need.
That's right. So for you listening, our goal is simple. Give you a clear shortcut to understanding why good PAM and identity security aren't just, nice to haves in M&A. They're absolutely fundamental.
Couldn't agree more.
We'll dig into the core issues, the hidden traps, and crucially, how you can navigate all this with, well, agility and confidence. We're looking at the problems, sure, but also the really innovative solutions out there. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so challenge number one. Companies merge, they inherit each other's IT stuff, and a huge hurdle right off the bat is dealing with disparate identity systems.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
You're talking about completely different IT setups, different rules for who gets access, maybe some really old legacy tech thrown in. What does that actually, look like?
Well, it's basically trying to mix oil and water sometimes. You've got maybe Active Directory here, Azure AD there, perhaps some AWS IAM, Google Cloud IAM.
All kinds of stuff.
Exactly. All with their own ways of doing things. Trying to stitch them together. It's not just complex, it's really time-consuming. And honestly, prone to errors.
Right. So what happens then?
You end up with systems that don't quite match up, security controls that are all over the place, inconsistent, and ultimately a much bigger attack surface for the bad guys.
Okay, so that sounds like a nightmare. How do companies even start to tackle that mess of different systems?
Well, this is where a unified cloud-native platform really makes a difference. Think of it like a universal translator for identities.
Okay.
It integrates smoothly across all those different identity providers, AD, Azure AD, cloud platforms, you name it. It pulls identity and access management together, whether your stuff is on-prem, in the cloud, hybrid, wherever.
So it centralizes things.
Precisely. Centralizes authentication, enforcing policies, managing accounts, and importantly, it goes out and finds those privileged accounts across the whole combined network, the new and the old, and helps secure them.
That sounds incredibly valuable. Cuts down the complexity.
Massively. Reduces the integration headaches, minimizes downtime during the switchover, which is critical, and honestly, it speeds up the whole M&A process. You get that operational continuity much faster.
Makes sense. Okay, so you sort of wrangle the systems together, but then you hit challenge number two, inconsistent PAM policies. Different companies, different rules about who gets the keys to the kingdom. That must cause problems.
Oh, absolutely. Big problems. You've got these different access policies clashing. That often creates gaps, maybe misconfigurations slip through. And the really worrying part, increased risk of privilege escalation.
Meaning someone gets more access than they should.
Exactly. It's like, having two different alarm systems for one building and maybe one isn't set properly, or someone accidentally gets the master code for both.
Right. Okay. So how does a good platform help smooth out those policy differences and keep things consistently secure?
The key is applying unified PAM policies across the board, often using things like role-based access control RBAC and enforcing least privilege pretty strictly.
Least privilege meaning?
Only the minimum access someone needs to do their job and nothing more. So the platform lets you define consistent security rules, and these rules adapt automatically based on the user's role, what they're trying to access, the context.
So it's dynamic.
Very dynamic. It automates that policy enforcement. Think of it like a central security guard that checks everyone's ID and only lets them into the rooms they're supposed to be in based on one consistent rulebook for the whole merged company.
And the benefit there?
Well, obviously consistent, secure access. But it also massively cuts down on the admin work. And it makes audits and proving compliance huge in M&A much, much simpler.
Yeah, I can see that. Which brings us nicely to this feeling of, well, what don't we know? Challenge 3, visibility gaps. It must be incredibly hard to see who's doing what with privileged access during all that M&A chaos.
It is. It's a massive blind spot. If you have limited visibility into what people with high-level access are actually doing, your risk just skyrockets. How can you spot suspicious activity if you can't see it?
You're flying blind, basically.
Completely.
Yeah.
Especially during a time of huge organizational change.
So how does a good solution bring that activity into the light? How do you get that visibility?
It's about providing end-to-end visibility.
Mm.
That means continuous discovery, finding all the privileged accounts, even hidden ones,
Mm.
real-time monitoring, watching what's happening, and intelligent analytics,
Analytics, like what kind?
often using machine learning. There are behavior analytics engines that learn what normal activity looks like for privileged users.
Yeah.
Then they can spot anomalies, flag risky actions, score the risk level.
Ah, so it's proactive.
Exactly. Proactive risk mitigation. It's not just seeing who logged in, but understanding what they did, if it was unusual, and crucially, finding those forgotten or shadow IT accounts that inevitably pop up when you merge environments.
And the payoff.
Better transparency, quicker threat detection, and ultimately, a lower chance of a serious breach. Huge value.
Definitely. Now, speaking of things popping up, legacy systems. Challenge 4, legacy system risks. Mergers often mean inheriting older infrastructure, stuff that wasn't built with modern security in mind. That sounds like a headache.
It's a major headache.
Yeah.
Because you often can't just switch these old systems off, right? They might be running critical processes.
That they're vulnerable.
Exactly. They weren't designed for today's threats, and integrating them with modern identity and access management, or IAM, platforms, it can be really difficult, expensive, disruptive.
So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. How do you secure these things without a massive, costly overhaul?
The smart approach is to extend modern PAM controls to those legacy systems. You don't necessarily have to rip and replace.
How does that work?
You apply things like credential vaulting, storing their passwords securely, automated credential rotation, enforcing least privilege, even on older systems. Essentially, you bring modern security practices to the legacy world.
So, like using specific tools.
Yeah, for instance, a privilege manager tool could remove unnecessary local admin rights on old Windows machines. A secret server type tool can vault and automatically rotate the passwords for critical accounts on those older systems.
Ah, okay, so you're modernizing the security around them.
Precisely. You secure these outdated systems without causing massive disruption, you reduce their vulnerabilities significantly, and you avoid those eye-watering upgrade costs that everyone dreads, especially mid-merger.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, we've talked a lot about tech, but M&A is also about people. Challenge 5, cultural and operational misalignment. Different companies, different ways of doing things, different attitudes to security, that must cause friction.
Oh, absolutely. Huge friction sometimes. Security isn't just firewalls and passwords. It's deeply ingrained in how people work, the processes they follow.
Right.
So if the new merged security approach feels, I don't know, too complex, too restrictive, or just different to one group, you'll get pushback. People find workarounds.
And workarounds often mean bypassing security.
Exactly. Which defeats the whole purpose. So you need buy-in. You need adoption.
So how does a security platform help bridge that human gap? Make it easier for people from different company cultures to get on board?
Well, the best solutions are designed with usability right at the core. They have user-friendly interfaces. They offer customizable automation workflows, often no code, so you can tailor processes without complex programming.
Flexible deployment, too.
Yeah, flexible deployment on-prem, cloud, hybrid, meets organizations where they are. Things like simple browser-based vaulting make it easy for different teams to use securely. It's all about lowering the barrier to entry.
So it's about making security less painful.
Essentially, yes, making it intuitive. When the tools are easy to use and adapt, people are far more likely to adopt the new security practices. It helps align everyone faster and fosters that collaboration you need.
Intuitive security, I like that. Okay, moving on. A big fear in M&A must be when access rights get tangled up. Challenge 6, data and access overlap. This sounds like where you get those standing privileges, people having access they don't strictly need all the time.
Yeah, that's a classic M&A risk. Roles change, systems merge, and suddenly people might have access to data or systems from both former companies, even if they don't need it anymore.
Which leads to
Data sprawl, sensitive data ending up in places it shouldn't, and those excessive permissions or standing privileges you mentioned. Basically, people having broad access, 2-party-7, just in case.
And that increases insider threat risk.
Significantly. Whether it's accidental exposure or, someone intentionally misusing access, the more unnecessary access people have, the higher the risk.
So how do you clean that up? How do you ensure people only have the access they need when they need it?
The answer really lies in just-in-time access, JIT. combined with strong role-based access control and automation.
Just in time, meaning.
Access is granted only for a specific task, for a limited time, and then automatically revoked. No standing privileges. Access is provisioned and taken away automatically as roles change or tasks are done.
So like temporary elevation.
Exactly. The solution dynamically elevates someone's access when they need it, maybe to fix a server or run a specific report, and it's often context-aware. Maybe they only get admin rights for that server for 30 minutes from their work laptop, then poof, the access is gone.
And the benefit.
Gets rid of standing privileges, which is huge, gives you much tighter control over sensitive data, and actually makes things more agile because access is always relevant to the current need.
Makes sense. Now, bigger company, more rules. M&A often means dealing with a whole new set of regulations. Challenge 7, regulatory compliance. That must get complicated fast across different regions and industries.
Oh, it does. Suddenly you might be subject to GDPR and IPA and SOX and CCPA, depending on the businesses involved and where they operate.
And auditors are probably watching more closely?
You bet. Increased scrutiny is almost guaranteed. The big question becomes, how do you prove you're compliant across this bigger, more complex, newly merged entity?
Right. How do you handle that audit burden and actually ensure compliance?
Again, a solid identity and PAM platform is critical here. It's designed to help enforce the necessary policies consistently across the whole environment.
And the proof part.
It meticulously logs all privileged activity, who accessed what, when, why, what changes were made, and it provides detailed compliance reports tailored for different regulations. The auditing tools built in really streamline that process of demonstrating compliance.
So it simplifies things for the auditors.
Absolutely. It generates those granular logs and reports they need. It's not just about avoiding fines, though, that's important. It's about making compliance manageable, building confidence with stakeholders, and ensuring the new company starts off on the right foot, legally and ethically.
Got it. Okay, it's not just internal folks. M&A brings in new partners, vendors, contractors. Challenge 8, third-party access management. That sounds like a major risk area.
It really is. Third parties, vendors, contractors, support teams often need privileged access to do their jobs. But giving outsiders the keys to the kingdom, that's inherently risky.
Especially during a chaotic transition period.
Exactly. Without tight controls, third-party access can become an easy way in for attackers or lead to accidental data breaches. The challenge is giving them the access they genuinely need, but nothing more, and doing it securely.
So how do you manage that? How do you let vendors fix things without giving them free rein?
The best practice involves very controlled, very monitored access, often using secure credential injection.
Meaning they don't actually see the password.
Correct. The platform injects the credentials needed for the session directly so the third party never handles them. You combine that with strong session monitoring, recording what they do, and always enforcing multi-factor authentication, MFA.
And the access itself.
It should be time-limited and purpose-bound. Access is granted only for the approved task, for a specific window. Maybe the vendor gets SSH access to one server for 2 hours to apply a patch, and their entire session is recorded.
Okay, that sounds robust.
It is. It secures that external collaboration, prevents attackers from using a compromised vendor to move laterally inside your network, stops credential theft, and gives you full accountability and an audit trail for everything third parties do.
Very important. Okay, looking ahead, M&A means growth, maybe rapid growth. Challenge 9, scalability of PAM solutions. Your security has to keep up as you add potentially thousands of users, systems, cloud services. How do you make sure it scales without falling over?
That's a critical point. Traditional, maybe older PAM solutions sometimes struggle to scale efficiently, especially in today's complex hybrid world.
Right. They weren't built for this scale.
Often not. Or they become incredibly complex and expensive to scale out. When you're absorbing a whole new company, the last thing you need is your central security platform becoming a bottleneck or feeling under the load.
So is the architecture the key, like cloud native?
Cloud-native architecture is a massive advantage here. A platform like Delinea's, being cloud-native, is designed from the ground up to handle thousands, even millions, of users, credentials, devices, cloud resources across complex hybrid setups. It's built for elasticity.
So it can handle the bursts in demand.
Exactly. Whether it's managing secrets in a fast-moving DevOps pipeline or vaulting credentials for tens of thousands of servers, the architecture scales efficiently. The real value is it supports that rapid business growth post-M&A without performance issues, helps avoid getting locked into one vendor or having tool sprawl, and just ensures smooth, reliable security performance as you grow. It builds a foundation that enables growth securely.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, last one, but it's a big one that underlies everything. Challenge 10, time pressure and resource constraints. M&A deals run on tight deadlines. IT and security teams are almost always stretched thin before the deal, let alone during it. How do you implement strong security quickly without burning out your people?
Yeah, this is the reality on the ground, isn't it? You've got this massive integration task, tight deadlines set by the business, and usually the same IT and security team, maybe even smaller after redundancies.
Trying to do complex security rollouts manually under that pressure.
It's a recipe for mistakes, delays, security gaps. You need speed, but you can't sacrifice security. So the question is, how do you accelerate secure integration without completely overwhelming your teams?
So, what's the solution's answer to that? How does it help speed things up for those stressed out teams?
A well-designed platform really focuses on rapid deployment and ease of management. It comes with things like out-of-the-box templates for common scenarios, automated policy creation wizards, really streamlined deployment options.
Less manual work, basically.
Much less. It cuts down setup time dramatically, minimizes the need for deep technical expertise for basic configuration, and lets you onboard the acquired company's users and systems much faster. Things like ready-made reports for compliance, fast agent rollouts for endpoints, it all adds up.
So it helps them get quick wins.
It's exactly. Quick, secure wins. The business value is crystal clear. You accelerate the M&A integration, you ease the burden on your IT and security folks, and you get secure operations up and running without those long, painful delays. It lets security move at the speed of the business, which is crucial in M&A.
Wow. What a comprehensive look at the hurdles. It's so clear that navigating M&A successfully is way more than just the deal itself. It's this deep integration of digital worlds. And we've seen how these purpose-built PAM and identity security platforms really tackle the whole spectrum, haven't we?
Yeah.
From unifying those crazy different systems and locking down third-party access.
To scaling up for huge growth and nailing that complex regulatory compliance.
Yeah. These solutions, they're not just about ticking boxes. They're about building a genuinely resilient, adaptable security posture for the new combined company.
Absolutely. It's about empowering organizations, not just to, survive the M&A process, but to actually come out stronger, more secure, able to move faster because they've reduced that underlying risk. It's really a proactive strategy.
So what does this mean for you listening, maybe even if M&A isn't immediately on your radar? Well, that true organizational agility, that confidence, it doesn't just come from the big strategic moves.
No, it comes from that solid foundation.
Exactly. It's about having that robust, adaptable security foundation that lets you move faster, stay secure through change, and genuinely cut down risk over the long haul. So maybe think about this. How could these ideas, unified security, better visibility, smart automation, how could they apply to your organization's growth, your security challenges right now?
Yeah, good question to ponder.
Definitely something to chew on. Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep digging deeper.